My name is Emily Hanneman. My question for Curious City is, how do TIFs work? Where does the money come from? And who decides where it goes?
TIF stands for Tax Increment Financing. Tax increment financing, also known as TIF, is a tool used by municipalities to finance development in blighted areas by borrowing against any future increase in the area's property tax. Once a municipality designates a TIF district, the municipality freezes the property tax it collects for itself. But it also freezes the take for schools, parks, and the county. If property values rise, all of the new tax money goes into a TIF fund for the area. In Illinois, the taxes stay frozen for at least 23 years. The state of Illinois creates the legislation that allows for TIFs, but the districts are designated by municipalities. In Chicago, that means the city council decides which areas should get TIFs. TIFs come and go. Chicago City Council creates them, then they expire. They're either renewed or the council creates new ones. Here are the districts that existed in Chicago as of 2011. TIF districts must meet two criteria. First, a district has to be blighted. The area might have properties that are old or in poor repair, values that are declining, or many vacant lots. They can also meet other blighting criteria decided by the city. There's another criteria to meet, the but-for rule. That is, the municipality must prove that the area would not develop but for the use of TIFs.
And the second criteria is a little harder to sort of stipulate what the requirements are, but this but-for requirement, that the area wouldn't be redeveloped and property values wouldn't grow but for the use of TIFs. So you basically, you have to demonstrate that there's been very little redevelopment activity, very little market interest in the area.
TIF funds pay for public projects within the designated district. Projects can include new schools, streetscapes, and affordable housing units. The money can also be used to rehabilitate land like brownfields or rehab government buildings. TIF funds are also spent on private development projects.
So the idea is that a private recipient can also create public benefits, whether it's through jobs or it's through the elimination of some sort of an eyesore, redeveloping a vacant site or a building that has been vacant for many years. That is considered a public benefit, so you're giving money to a private company, but there's the expectation that more than that private company or that private firm will benefit.
Chicago is the TIF poster child of shame. So in practice in the city of Chicago, it's abused beyond understanding. There's no other jurisdiction in the nation has anything like this. And frankly, the explanation that's been given is that it's the mayor's slush fund. It's the way the machine, the new machine, the pinstripe patronage machine operates in Chicago.
The issues aren't debated through the sort of normal sort of budgetary means, where you have a debate between 50 aldermen representing their different wards and a discussion with the city. These tend to happen on a case-by-case, project-by-project, alderman-by-alderman kind of a basis. So I think that is why TIF is considered a sort of shadow budget.
Since TIF funds expand through overall growth in property tax, the areas that do best under TIFs are areas where investment is already underway. More impoverished areas attract less investment and tend to benefit less. In Chicago, the most productive TIFs end up being in the downtown area.
In Chicago itself, our biggest challenge is knowing exactly where the money is going and then making a judgment about whether or not so much of the money, the vast majority of the money, goes into the downtown area. And a lot of people don't understand how Michigan Avenue and State Street are considered blighted, given what they may see in their own neighborhood, or if they see that schools are in trouble. So why is so much money going into the downtown TIFs?
No wonder that our schools are in a pickle and our city's in a pickle when you are extracting $1 billion a year, taking them off the table, so to speak, putting them in this giant slush fund, those tax dollars are then not available to the Board of Ed, the libraries, mass transit, the city colleges, the County of Cook, and the City of Chicago itself, which all rely very heavily on property taxes to operate. So basically, every dollar TIF takes, somebody loses.
But the reality also is all those people who are not in TIF districts, they usually end up paying more because they have to make up for those funds in the TIF fund that are diverted to the TIF. So they have to make up for the funds that go to the other taxing bodies, the schools, park district, city, etc.
Critics of TIFs in Chicago worry that the public is not benefiting enough from TIF payments made to private interests. TIFs are supposed to include redevelopment agreements between businesses and the city. These agreements set out obligations such as affordable housing set-asides or a set number of jobs created in the area. Critics have argued that enforcement is sketchy, and they cite times when companies have sold TIF project properties or gone bankrupt, all with little public benefit.
And in fact, when we've been in the communities pointing out some of the projects that receive TIFs, oftentimes someone will say, oh, they're not here anymore. They moved to the suburbs. They're out of business.
So that's just a taste of how TIFs work, the purported benefits and the critiques. One thing's clear though, a TIF district can have a big effect on a resident's quality of life. But sorting out that effect isn't easy. The potential good and bad are laid out in piles of paperwork, and the details can be a little overwhelming.